Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. I have something different to do today in this video. First of all, I'd just like to mention that just recently I passed 200 subscribers for this channel, which is a milestone I never thought I would achieve, to be honest, just because, as I famously said, in the beginning I was a bit worried that people wouldn't be interested in what I had to say, but it turned out there have been a few, which is great. And I think that was really helped along by that, ironically, by the 10 terrible albums video. Negativity seems to attract people. But yeah, I'd just like to say to each and every one of you who has subscribed and or watches my videos, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And your comments and support are what keep me going and make me enthusiastic to do this. So really, it's been a great experience. I'm so glad I decided to go ahead with this. This project in general, I was a bit worried in the beginning, but it's actually turned out really well. So on that note, to say thank you to everyone and to pay forward, I decided to make my own thread. I've never done this before, so this is a first for me, just to give something back to viewers and subscribers. So coming to the details of the thread, this is the name of my thread and I'm going to explain the details. I will also do an example of my own so you can get some ideas. I've written some notes here just so I don't miss anything, so that's why I'm looking over in this direction. But my thread is entitled 5 Innovative Albums Which You Need to Hear. So obviously I don't mean to be patronizing, the meaning of innovative meaning original or showing new ideas. So that could encompass a lot of things, couldn't it? So what I mean by innovative in this sense, it could be a groundbreaking album, a game-changing album, or simply an album which is experimental, different, or creative. So there's no rule. It doesn't have to be an obscure album, but it can be, of course, by all means. But it might be a really famous album. For example, like you might think, like for example, Black Sabbath's first album or Venom's first album, very influential and groundbreaking game changers. You can include that on the list. And you will see that with my list, I've actually got some very well-known ones as well as some obscure ones. So you can mix it up or do all weird and obscure and all game changers. It's up to you. So 5 innovative albums. Actually, I've got 10. That's the other thing. You don't need to show up to 10. I'm saying 5, but really it's up to you. If you want to show 20, that's also cool. Like I watched a video the other day where I saw this guy talk about his top 50 black metal albums. So as long as you're willing to put in the time, there's no restriction on number, but I just said 5 because that's about what most people would like to do. Okay, so yeah, with this, the 5 innovative albums, you can talk about any genres. I suppose most people will be talking about metal and or rock. You'll see with mine it's mostly black metal, but it can be anything, so it's up to you. You have complete freedom over it. Alright, so 5 innovative albums which you need to hear. By the way, before I get into my thread, I'm also going to give away a prize. For the winner, I'll buy them a record of their choice. So obviously, you know, a standard record price, like I think, you know, 20 to 30 US dollars, and I'll send it to you. Yeah, so any one of your choice, just no holy grails, no really expensive stuff. And I'm also going to give away 3 of my CDs. So first of all, Necromancy with Malice. So this is a Greek black metal band, famous for having 2 bass players. So this is experimental and weird. This could even be on the list really today. It is an interesting album. I just don't listen to it that much, so I think it might as well belong to someone else. So you see, it comes in this really nice glossy digipack, and there's a colored booklet inside as well. Yeah, and I haven't played this too much, so it's pretty much good as new. And the other one I'm going to give away, the compilation Traces of Death. This is a compilation which I bought from Relapse over 20 years ago now. But yeah, it's what I was already listening to death metal at the time, but it enabled me to discover a lot of different bands as well and interesting releases. So yeah, this is from the official documentary soundtrack, and it says here, featuring the music of Dead World, Punch and Stench, Mortician, Cataclysm, Hypocrisy, Purge, Sinister, Brutality, Dismember, Deceased, Gorefest, Meshuggah, Exit 13, Macabre, Benediction, Repulsion, Core, and Merzbow. So massive compilation, and this compilation helped me discover a lot of those more obscure death metal bands. But that was a starting point. Now I'm familiar with it, so I don't need this anymore. Someone else might be interested to hear it. Okay, and the third CD I'm going to give away is this one I've spoken probably negatively about on this channel, but Al-Wahidin, the Third Power of Alfta. So as I mentioned, this is sort of like ritualistic, dark, ambient very experimental and strange, but yeah, for me it doesn't do it for me, but it might be up your alley. And then, as I said, you don't have to take all the CDs. If you take it and you don't like it, you can always sell it. Yeah, so these 3 CDs I'm going to give away, plus a record of your choice. So anyway, getting into it now with my list. Because I've got 10, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because, of course, the title is Which You Need to Hear, so I don't need to explain it, you can just go and listen. But I'll talk about them a little bit. Okay, so starting with the... I'll start with the records. Okay, by the way, I just thought I'd mention, a lot of these albums are well known, yes, but one of the things that gave me the idea for this video was I saw a lot of people said to me in their comments, oh, like, I've never heard this band or I've never heard that album, and my reaction was, oh wow, really? You've got to check it out. Like even well-known ones, it happens. And so that's what I thought about with this thread. It will be a good way for people to discover new music which they haven't heard, which is really good, and it will also help me when you show your lists. By the way, just the rules on that. First of all, you need to be subscribed to my channel, so if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Secondly, if you do have a channel, you'll need to make a video just like mine. And thirdly, if you don't have a channel, you can still enter. You just need to leave your albums in the comments. So everyone is eligible. So either if you have a channel or if you're just a commenter, that's fine. Oh, sorry, not just a commenter, but you know what I mean? You don't need to make a video. So everyone is eligible, and then I'll draw all the names out of a hat. Anyway, enough babble. All right, so first innovative album which you need to hear. BEHERIT with Drawing Down the Moon. Yep, so I have mentioned this album on my channel before. Most people know this, I'm sure, but I remember some commenters said they hadn't heard it. This is essential Finnish Black Death. Very atmospheric. It's sort of like, yeah, it's mostly black metal, but it's crossed over with death metal in its heaviness, and it has really unique vocals, like sort of like this harsh nocturnal whisper, and it's got keyboards, it's incredibly heavy, and it's got some ambient interludes. It's a little bit experimental in some parts, but you just see the back here, the landscapes of Finland. It invokes images of that in my mind when I listen to this album. It's a bit spacey, a little bit, maybe even psychedelic, experimental, but it's weird in a good way. And like I've said before, the first time I heard this, it was Solomon's Gate on a compilation tape back in the 90s, and that's what sold me on this band. Absolutely brilliant, essential album. Like out of all the BEHERIT albums, this one is my favorite for sure, and I think I'm probably not alone with that. So yeah, favorite tracks on this for me: Solomon's Gate, Nocturnal Evil, The Gate of Nana, Unholy Pagan Fire, Summerlands. Yeah, just brilliant stuff. So essential Finnish Black Death, that's BEHERIT with Drawing Down the Moon. If you haven't heard it, check it out. Okay, next album I'm going to talk about. The t-shirt is a giveaway. Immortal with Diabolical, Fullmoon, Mysticism. Okay, so I've shown this on my channel before as well. Obviously Immortal need no introduction, famous Norwegian black metal band. But what I've always found about them is the fact that they have a unique sound, which is different to all those other bands. You know, often you hear bands and you say, oh yeah, that's black metal. Immortal have always had their own sound, even right up to latter day albums. But this one in particular is my favorite because it's just the most atmospheric, like really raw production, echoey vocals. And it's interesting, it's like the album is driven by the bass grooves, and the guitars sound like this sort of snowstorm effect layered over the top, and the drums sound really clattery, so it's got this really eerie, murky atmosphere. Also some acoustic guitars and keyboards, and like those Abbott's gurgled vocals. It sounds very ritualistic, so whenever I listen to this album, I'm just immersed in atmosphere. It's fantastic. So I know a lot of people may be familiar with Immortal, and again, some people told me that they had never heard this one. You need to hear this if you haven't heard it. It's my absolute favorite. I have so many by this band which I really like, but this one is one you need to hear. So check it out if you haven't heard it. That's Immortal with Diabolical, Fullmoon, Mysticism. Okay, so you see, I've started with 2 relatively well-known albums. I've got about 2 or 3 obscure ones. So going to the CDs now. AGATUS with The Weaving Fates. So if you're not familiar, I have talked about this on my channel before, but AGATUS are a Greek black metal band, and they're a little bit different, especially on this album anyway, because it sounds like a cross between melodic black metal in that Hellenic Greek style, but also they crossover with traditional heavy metal. So there are some parts which sound really similar to Iron Maiden, like with the clean vocals, like those soaring vocals and everything, which invoke the atmosphere of albums like Somewhere in Time and Peace of Mind. But at the same time, it's also very atmospheric, melodic black metal. They use some acoustic guitars, they use some keyboards. The music has a real gallop to it, and it's got some experimental aspects to it, like chants and everything, but just like overall, a fantastic creative album which really flows so well. It's just brilliant. So I'll just show you the disc with this. So they say play at maximum volume, very good idea. Yeah, but if you're just looking for something black metal which is different and really striking, definitely check it out. So AGATUS with the Weaving Fates. Okay. All right, so coming up next, another well-known album. But again, I've heard some people on YouTube saying they haven't heard these guys before. Dissection with the Somberlain. So obviously, Dissection, very well-established band, even though they don't exist anymore. I mean, everyone knows who they are. This was the album which really kicked down the door, groundbreaking for Swedish black metal. It's unique in the sense that it was like the Swedes were creating their own style, which was unique and original. So of course I love Norwegian black metal, but like you hear this album and it was a completely different sound when it first came out. Now, my favorite album by this band, it's always between this one and Storm of the Light's Bane. Storm of the Light's Bane is probably my favorite for nostalgic purposes, in the sense that it was the first one I heard and it takes me back. But this one is really what established that melodic Swedish black metal sound. And what I like about it is it's very atmospheric and sorrowful. Like the songs are like often mid-paced and slow, and like it's not technical, it's simplistic, but there's just so much atmosphere, and it invokes this atmosphere of melancholy and sorrow so well, especially on those slow songs like A Land Forlorn, Heaven's Damnation, the title track, the Somberlain, also Shadows Over a Lost Kingdom. Yeah, it's like, it's melancholic, but it's also very dark and eerie, and it's just a unique sound. So like this album, it sounds strange, but like when I listen to it, it makes me picture being in the nature of Sweden, the landscapes, you know, like on a miserable winter's day or something, but absolutely loaded with atmosphere. If you've never heard this band, check them out, and I would say start with this one, so Dissection with the Somberlain. Okay, all right, coming up next, Enthroned with Cold Black Suns. So I've also mentioned on this channel before, Enthroned are a Belgian black metal band, so that's something a little bit different because they're not from one of those typical black metal countries. Very well established, and they've been around since the mid-90s. They've gone through some lineup changes, so the original vocalist and bassist Sabbathan, he left the band. He had a trademark sound, but then Nornegest, the guitarist, took over as lead vocalist, and this is one of the, I think, one of the most recent albums, if not the most recent, and this album, I would say check out all of Enthroned's albums, including the Nornegest era, the Sabbathan era, but they are just a unique band. Like pretty much every album, except this one in particular, is very original. It's unique, basically. And as I've mentioned before, this is kind of experimental black metal. So it's not that sort of cliched black metal sound, although they do have blast beat parts and raspy vocals and everything, but a lot of this features clean guitars and ambient interludes. Often it sounds like almost ritualistic, I would say, but like just the ambience of these clean guitars and like some of the sounds they experiment with, it's so epic and atmospheric, and you just get immersed in the ambience of this album. And like I was listening to this just again today to check I should make it on my list. Definitely, like underrated band in general. And I know a lot of people say after Sabbathan left the band, they're not interested in the new stuff. Honestly, just check out the new stuff, especially this album, because it's definitely worth it. Unique, original, and atmospheric. It's fantastic. So, Enthroned with Cold Black Suns. Okay, coming up next, another well-known band for sure. But remember, the topic of this video is innovative albums which you need to hear. So Mayhem with Grand Declaration of War. So obviously it comes in this digipack like this. Mayhem need no introduction, like the founders of the second wave of black metal, basically through Euronymous, who created that scene, and through the band. this was an album which came out after he had passed away, so you know, the famous albums being Death Crush and De Mysteriis Dom Satanas, they're sort of considered the legendary classic ones, and with good reason. But this album, I just really think is completely unique. Like those earlier ones, they were groundbreaking in themselves, but like then of course a whole slew of copycats and came along in the 90s, so like, and Mayhem was slowed down obviously because they lost some band members and everything, so when they came back, I suppose they were under this pressure to come up with something sort of out of the ordinary, a bit, well, not under the pressure, but they probably wanted to do something different, like not just copy all the bands who had copied them. So they came up with this album. This featured new guitarist Blasphemer and also Maniac on vocals from the Death Crush album, so after Dead had passed away as well. But yeah, if you've heard this album, you'll know what I mean. It's completely unique. Like it's got some spoken word passages from Maniac, and also just like completely original and unique songwriting, like really off the wall rhythms and beats and everything, yet still catchy. And like the drumming is incredibly fast. It's like absolutely out of control, but clinically perfect. Like, but some of the drum fills they do over the music, it's incredible. It also features clean vocals. It features some electronic aspects, but really such a unique album. And I know a lot of people thought people thought this band was just trying very hard to be different. I don't think so. I think this album is absolute genius. Like, it's really good. I think maybe with some people they thought, oh yeah, it's not going to stand the test of time. In my opinion, it's aged really well. Like, I still listen to this album once in a while, not all that often, but like I really like it every time I hear it. Like, so good. Like, some of my favorite songs on this, View from Nile, Crystallized Pain in Deconstruction, A Blood Sword and a Colder Sun. Just so many different atmospheres on this album, and it's just completely unique. And also, yeah, even the last track, To Daimonian, that even sounds like a Dead Kennedys song. So they're experimenting with a lot of different sounds, but you can still tell with Blasphemer's guitar style and Hellhammer's drumming and Maniac's vocals, it's definitely still Mayhem, but they're just trying, you know, they're doing something different. So really underrated album, I think. I know there's a lot of people who say after De Mysteriis Dom Satanas, everything sucks. I think that's narrow-minded, and I respectfully disagree. So check this one out. You'll see here, there we go. I got this one signed when I met the band back in 2002, I think, and it was actually for this particular album tour, yeah, because it was 2002, yeah, I guess it would have been Grand Declaration of War tour, but definitely check it out for unique and original black metal. Mayhem, Grand Declaration of War. Okay. So I don't want to take up too much of your valuable time. Okay, so going into the next one, I was listening to this one just this morning. Okay, Medieval Demon with Medieval Necromancy. So I've mentioned this in a collection update before. This is Greek Hellenic black metal, but wow, is it original. Like, when I heard this, I mean, it's got all of those typical black metal elements there, you know, like the raspy vocals, blast beats, keyboards, but just the way they compose the songs, the way they write, this is really striking and original stuff, in my opinion. Like, it kind of invokes a hammer horror atmosphere, you know, like using organs, and there's some female vocals and everything, but it's just done so brilliantly and such a great atmosphere. With the keyboards, they sound so majestic and atmospheric. There's a song where like one of the women, she's like reciting a poem in French really passionately, but the keyboards interspersed with that, it's just really haunting, dark and atmospheric. So really unique, amazing stuff. Yeah, so I know that's the funny thing, like Greece has always been part of the black metal scene, and they've had some really original bands to offer, and this is just proof that they keep them coming. And I think there's a lot of bands coming out of Greece at the moment which are worth paying attention to. I've got this one and the other one, but this one, you'll see what I mean. Like, there are all the classic black metal elements there, but just the way that they write songs, the way they use the keyboards, it just invokes so much atmosphere. And it really, when I heard this, I thought, wow, this stands out. So definitely check it out. Medieval Demon with Medieval Necromancy. Okay. Okay, coming up next, I do have the vinyl version of this, but I forgot to pull it out, so I'll just show you the CD. Only death metal band on the list actually, but NILE with Amongst the Catacombs of Nephren-Ka. So this is a groundbreaking album, absolutely brilliant. Released in the late 90s, I think. So NILE, if you're not familiar, doubtful, they are an American death metal band, I think from, I can't remember, North or South Carolina, but they play death metal with an ancient Egyptian theme, as you can tell by the title and artwork here. So yeah, and it's interesting, in the late 90s when Relapse sent me a catalogue, that's when I discovered a lot of new bands at that time. And it was actually Relapse that was responsible for me getting me back into death metal. Like around 97, 98, I had already listened to death metal, but I was pretty much only listening to black metal at that time. And then Relapse sparked my interest because they were always advertising bands like this one and Incantation, that kind of thing. But I heard the first song I heard from this on a compilation, Relapse compilation, was Howling of the Djinn, and that just blew my head off. I was like, wow, this is incredible. Like this is super fast, brutal, technical death metal, like with clinical precision. This could almost be, like some people say it's almost like a grindcore album because it's only 30 minutes, but like incredibly low guttural vocals, like pummeling drums and guitars and everything, just brutal as anything. But at the same time, it's really creative because obviously they're talking about that ancient Egyptian world. Like lyrics, you've got songs like Ramesses, Bringer of War, Stones of Sorrow, which is talking about the construction of the pyramids, Opening of the Mouth, referring to the mummification ritual, with ancient Egypt. So it's really theatrical, but like absolutely amazing. They use a lot of keyboards in it. And it was quite funny when I heard that song Howling of the Djinn, like it's brutal death metal, and then the part in the middle I was going, wow, this sounds like In the Nightside Eclipse Emperor. So like they invoke some black metal atmosphere with the use of keyboards, also incorporate some acoustic guitars, and they have some I think Middle Eastern choirs and Middle Eastern music and instruments. So it really makes you picture being in ancient Egypt out in the shimmering hot desert, or like in the tombs, the chambers of the pyramids, something like that. Sort of like the movie The Mummy, which I love that movie, that kind of atmosphere at the beginning, where they show Imhotep being embalmed alive, like that it really invokes so much atmosphere. So I love this album for that reason. And yeah, so many good songs. Like you've got some straightforward death metal songs like Smashing the Anantu, which is just like brutal pummeling blast fest for 2.5 minutes. But then some amazing majestic guitar solos. It's just so powerful and atmospheric. So if you've never heard this album, definitely check it out. Like this band has released a ton of albums, but this will always be the one to me which is the best because it was the very first one and it was completely original when it first came out. So definitely check it out. NILE with Amongst the Catacombs of Nephren-Ka. Great. Okay. All right, 2 more. Okay. Up next, ULVER with Bergtatt. So I've already talked about this band on this channel as well, but ULVER are a Norwegian black metal band, or were. Now they've actually become an electronic band. But what was interesting about this band, the first 3 albums, they tried to do something different each time. So this was the very first one they released. It's just amazing, like melodic, atmospheric, folky black metal with a very Norwegian atmosphere. What's interesting about it was so groundbreaking for its time because Garm, the lead vocalist, he also sang some clean choral vocals, which are very distinctive. And like that first song, I Trollskod Jaren Vild, I apologize for my pronunciation. Yeah, the vocals are really dreamy and atmospheric. Often they sound choral and a bit medieval and classical. You'll see what I mean. There's also like acoustic guitars, a lot of melody in this, but then they also have parts where they're just blasting full steam ahead with raspy vocals and everything. But yeah, those parts with the acoustic guitars and like the somber and the clean instruments, it just sounds really atmospheric a lot of the time. And it's amazing. To this day, this still doesn't get boring. And like at the time this came out, it must have blown people's minds because it was just so different to everything that was being released. Like black metal was still in its early stages then. This came out in 95, and I think I first heard it in 98, but it just blew me away instantly. And as I've mentioned before, I much prefer this one to Nutten's Madrigal, even though that's a great album, but that's basically like Transylvanian Hunger on steroids. but this one is the most atmospheric. I also really like the second one, Kveldsanger, which was the acoustic guitar one. So they sort of took the folky and classical choral elements of this album and just went all ahead with that on the second one. So Kveldsanger, it's not a metal album at all, but it's brilliant. Yeah, that could possibly be my favorite one actually, but this is where it all began. It's just incorporating unique and original elements into black metal. So ULVER with Bergtatt. Okay, and the last one for today. This is a more obscure album. This is ZEPHYROUS with Entrance and Wandering on the Seven Zones. So, first of all, that artwork looks familiar, doesn't it? A lot of people are probably saying it's the new Dark Throne album, which is called, what? Eternal Hails, I think? But actually, when I first saw that artwork, I went, hey, they ripped off the ZEPHYROUS artwork. So this one came out in sometime in the 90s, I can't remember, so they were actually the ones to use it first. I think it was like 95, 96 when this album came out, but yeah, this is a Greek band. So it's not a solo project of the guitarist of Dark Throne. You see, it's a trio, and they go by rather theatrical stage names, so like a Serpent King guitars, bass, synths, Dreamlord on vocals, and Emperor of the Morning Moon on drums. And that was this guy, even though it was rumored to be a drum machine. But yeah, what you have with this band, this is Hellenic black metal again. So again, there are some comparisons with Rotting Christ and Varathron, but what's different with this band is just they incorporate traditional Greek folk music. Like the first track, Antiquus Gloria, that sounds like traditional Greek music. So you picture yourself on the Greek harbor or something, but just really, really atmospheric once again, and it takes your mind to a certain place. Also, the way this band uses keyboards, like they're sort of this ambient effect always going in the background, but it creates this icy atmosphere. And some of the songs on this, like they're still incorporating that Greek folk music, especially into the bass playing when the music's going. So it's just totally original once again. And they've got some really sort of psychedelic, dreamy parts with guitar solos. So yeah, completely atmospheric and unique. Sensations Lost in Time, which is the last track, that's like an atmospheric, icy piano track, which is great. But some of my favorite tracks on this, Antiquus Gloria, the Frozen Path of Timeless Wisdom and Trance, the Inner Battalion of Dagon, that has got this amazing guitar solo, which is so melodic and atmospheric. It's brilliant. Yeah, and also, what's it? Apparition of a Haunted Dance and Sensations Lost in Time. But honestly, unique Hellenic black metal. And this band only released a couple of albums, then they faded into obscurity. But this one, if you're just looking for original sounding Greek black metal or black metal in general, check it out. Okay, so that's ZEPHYROUS with Entrance and Wandering on the Seven Zones. Alright guys, so looking at the time now, I know I have to edit some parts out in this, but I haven't done too badly for time, so hopefully you stuck around. So that's my list, my 10 innovative albums which you need to hear. So just as I mentioned, if you want to do 5, that's fine. And yeah, it's up to you. Choose how many you want. But let's make it at least 5. Alright, so innovative albums which you need to hear. So I'll leave this competition running for about a month. So you'll have about a month to post your video responses or leave your comments. And then a month from now, which I think will be coming towards the end of December, I will do the draw. So we'll find out who the winner is. I'll get your address details and I'll send you 1 to 3 of those CDs, however many you like, and the record. So if you have any questions about anything or something's not clear, you can always ask me. And don't forget, to be eligible for this competition, you should be subscribed. So that's just to boost the channel, I guess. But thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you join the competition. Remember, you might as well, because you've got nothing to lose. And hopefully some people respond to this. If there's a low number of people responding, hey, you might as well, because it'll increase your chances of winning. So once again, thanks everyone for all of your support of this channel. This competition is to pay it forward and say thank you to everyone. So I hope you join. And it's also just for a bit of fun, you know, like it's not about just winning the competition because only one person can win. It's about sharing musical ideas and discovering new bands and, you know, helping other people discover new bands. So I hope you join. Okay, so thanks a lot for watching. I look forward to your responses and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.